gets it yet.
Have you seen those lawnmowers that
Yeah, you can see the sticker right there. Go rabbit.
Wow, look at this place. This is neat. You're looking at down here. This is where they're showcasing all the ground equipment from World War II. At least the sun's out. That's good. Wow.
It's dual horning.
Dual horning.
Dual horning.
Not you this time.
I wasn't expecting
Yep, this is the inside of the bomb bay of a B-25.
I was thinking this was a B-25.
Yeah. And you'll be seeing one of these fly in a little later on.
Alright.
Wow. This is unbelievable to see how much vehicles changed from back then to now.
The aircraft safe, they keep you safe to keep not only them from running into you, but you from running into them. So a lot of unsung heroes. There are literally hundreds of volunteers. Guess what? I'm a volunteer too. and they get it done. They get bit. We're able to put this on for you, and we do it because we love it. We believe in what the mission is and what the story is, and we try to tell the tale and try to keep the greatest generation alive for you. We don't want to lose that history at all. So once again, thanks to all our volunteers that do what they do, but especially our aircraft flight line crew. We got our air boss up here. We got Snuggy's waving like, what about me? What about me? Greggy, you're the best, dude. He's the ultimate cat herder. Nothing happens on this airfield from 12:30 to 5:30 unless that man says right there. He's responsible. Okay, we're starting to move that C-54 into position as we get ready to get started here at World War II weekend. Oh, by the way, Dave Robardo is also the assistant air boss. Okay, he keeps his eye on the skies to keep literally everybody else away from us, so that again, the aircraft that we see flying up there isn't going to run into ours, literally. So again, a lot of these little subtle details that all get taken care of are all because not only we like to put on a good show for you, but we want to keep you safe. Okay, here we go. Our visiting secretaries are pulling up into position. We're going to get started shortly. So stand by just for a minute as we get ready for the flying portion of our program here at World War II weekend.
Bomb and put it in the back of the airplane. Now, when you're doing aerial resupply, there is a guy in the back called the kicker. It's his job to literally kick the stuff out the door. So here comes the C-47, 500-pound on board, and the kicker looks at it, figures out, yep, that's about right. He kicks the bomb out the door and dead centers the convoy. D-Day invasion, the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Well, right around this time, 2 years before D-Day, was the Battle of Midway. This was the turning point in the Pacific. We went, we found the Japanese, and we just, well, we really tore them up. Typically, the higher you go, the winds will increase in velocity. They may also change direction too. I've seen this before. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on the streamer run. Here comes Wildcat, the C-49, courtesy of the World War II Airborne Demonstration Team. Let's keep an eye out for those streamers.
Here they go.
There we go. Blowing pretty good, but the direction seems to be all right. We will wait to see what the official word is going to be. The ground crew out there in the landing zone, they're watching it eagerly, and they will refer the information to Wildcat so that they can make an accurate determination of whether or not they want to jump today. I am hoping they will jump. Same airplane they take off from. They prefer to jump from the plane. And it looks like we've got a jump run going here. You'll see as the aircraft, now is when the adrenaline inside the aircraft begins to surge. The jump master on board the plane has just shouted the word 6 minutes. Then he shouts 2 commands. Stand up, followed by hook up. The jumpers stand up and hook their static lines to a long cable that runs down the center ceiling of the plane. The jump master sounds off with, check your equipment, here we go! Jumpers away! Each jumper counts 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. At that point, each jumper checks his canopy to make sure everything is okay. The task now is to maintain intervals and find your way safely to the ground. What you are seeing is just how jumpers descended during the Second World War. If you have ever seen Band of Brothers or the movie A Bridge Too Far, these guys do it for real. Watch as each jumper hits the ground. They will land with a characteristic parachute landing fall. They land at a speed that is the equivalent of jumping off a second-story platform. They never land standing up, but use the parachute landing fall technique to disperse their energy. Once again, one of the worst things that can happen to a paratrooper is to get dragged along the ground. Not only can you get hurt that way, but in a wartime situation, you are now a moving target for the enemy. Not good.
Not at all.
The team's home in Oklahoma suffered nearly $1 million in damage to their historic World War II hangar. Please stop by their location here and make a donation. The team is a mainstay here at Reading, and we want to help them get back on their feet. You might also want to know that the team maintains a complete airborne training center there with a team of nearly 180 parachutists plus pilots, aircraft mechanics, and all the support staff necessary to run a complete World War II living history experience. If you would like to join them, stop by their location here at the show and pick up a recruiting brochure. 50 of the team members just finished jumping in Normandy for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. The jumpers you see here today stayed behind to support World War II weekend. As you can see, the wind is blowing pretty good. And we have one jumper who has found himself in a thermal. He's actually in a column of rising air out there.
Wow.
What do you do?
You get the plane, flat under him. He lands.
Wow.
Open up the cockpit, he drops it.
Well, one thing for sure, this is a very light paratrooper here. Now what we have to do is we are going to hold Wildcat off while this jumper attempts to land. Sooner or later that thermal's gotta give out, and it looks like they are coming down.
Wow. That's crazy. I'll say.
What do they call it?
Yep, he's coming down now.
All right, we've got that column of hot air, that thermal. They are, this paratrooper is definitely heading towards the ground. I mean, this paratrooper has gone just about the full length of the main runway here.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I'll say.
Standing up, hooking up, and checking their equipment. The jump master has them ready to spring like a trap. They are waiting. Jump run number 2, Wildcat, coming across the field. jumpers, and they will make their judgment call accordingly. Once again, one of the things that we want to do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hear that this is going to be a jump run. Here comes Wildcat with the second stink of jumpers.
There they go.
There you are, jumpers away. Each jumper counts 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. At that point, each jumper checks his canopy to make sure everything is okay. Now, just like before, their task is to maintain intervals and find their way safely to the ground. Now, can you imagine doing this in a combat situation?
You can't really do anything once you're up there. It's like, oh.
Now watch again, as each jumper hits the ground, they will land, making it look so easy, but it's not. As I mentioned before, they land at a speed that is like jumping off a second-story platform. Now, everything they do on landing is carefully practiced over and over so that they do not injure themselves. Here come the landings. Two down, 3 to go. Let's keep an eye on these paratroopers here. Perfect landing, nice roll and everything. Oops.
Uh-oh.
That's 4 down. Here comes tail end Charlie. We've got 5 safe on the ground. There we have it. Those of you who are wondering what those big black and white stripes are, they were called invasion stripes. The idea being is that this would be an easy way to identify friendly aircraft versus the enemy. Even with those stripes. Ladies and gentlemen, here comes Tom Richard with the North American P-51 Mustang. Let's all wave at him. Tom is a race man. He loves when people wave at him, and I guarantee you he will wave back. So give it up for Tom Richards. Look at that. See that? He is waving. You sure can tell that Tom Richard loves this airplane. And here's Wildcat doing a wheel landing. Notice the main wheels are on the ground, but the tail is still in the air. This is to maintain control during gusty weather such as today. Of course, the fun part is getting that tail wheel back on the ground again, which they do no problem. we're going to step back, not into World War II, but we're going to go back to the previous war. Now, all of you know about Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, okay? Well, Manfred von Richthofen had a brother, Lothar von Richthofen, and he also had a cousin, Wolfram von Richthofen, in the war. Manfred was killed trying to get a fighter plane off of Wolfram's tail, which he did, but Wolfram was the individual responsible in World War II for Germany issuing the contracts for the jet engine programs that led to the Me-262, the Arado 234. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going, because the way we have the schedule set up here, we're not going to be bumping it up like we sometimes do at other air shows. Here you go, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the World War II in the winds that we have. Let's show them some love. Well, we're going to take a little break here. We're not bumping the schedule up like other air shows would do because we have a European battle simulation. We also have a Pacific battle simulation, and it takes time for both of these groups to get their equipment together, warmed up, whatever it needs to take for them to get ready. So we're going to hold to the schedule, which means that we're going to have a little bit of a break here. So once again, stay hydrated, keep that sunblock going. Hey, not much of a takeoff run, was it? You know, that was a big advantage with the Yellbird. That's Justin Coletti there demonstrating short field takeoff. And here comes Dick Smith with the SV4C. He's taking a little bit more runway, but that's okay. Stomp up there, usually with no radios because of the weight factor, very little navigation or other flight instrumentation. These were based on mass-produced lightweight aircraft in production at the outbreak of World War II. Now here comes Justin Coletti through. Now bear in mind, this airplane has only 65 horsepower. That's it. Oh, he's rocking his wings up there. Is he doing it intentionally? Yes. I imagine it is a little sporty up there today, but he's doing that just to let you know that he's really enjoying himself being here. Right behind him, this is Dick Smith with the French-built, Belgian-designed Stomp SV4C. This is a mid-30s design. It was licensed, built in France. A Belgian primary trainer all the way up to the 60s. I found the cheat sheet he gave me. Now he's a retired Army sniper with 2 deployments to Afghanistan. And they flew this J3 all the way from Kansas. That is a miracle. That's what, about a third of the way across the country? That's a pretty doggone far flight for an airplane that's cruising along at about 55 miles an hour. This is a 1941 J3 with a C85 engine capable, it has a fuel capacity of 20 gallons of gas, enabling at least 3 to 4 hours of flying time. This airplane can also use automobile gas, making it affordable to own and fly. Also, there is no electrical system on this aircraft, and it is required to use the Armstrong starter to fire up the engine. The Armstrong starter is where you have somebody manually grab a hold of the propeller and give it a spin, just like on a model airplane. Versatile. They could get in and out of the tiniest of places. They were very happy with grass fields, farmers fields, whatever. There he goes. You see that? He's having fun. Everybody, let's all wave back. That's Justin Coletti up there with his J3 Cub. Now, in World War II, it was against the rules for you to do this. But there was a pilot out there who took some initiative. His name was Charlie Carpenter. He started out as Major Charles Carpenter with his airplane Rosie the Rocketeer as we watched Dick Smith go by. That looks like it could be a fun airplane to fly. Well, anyway, the airplane he called Rosie the Rocketeer. His battlefield exploits in the tiny airplane won him a variety of nicknames: Bazooka Charlie, the Mad Major, and Lucky Carpenter. Here, and the next thing you know, you're packing. And Bazooka Charlie was, well, pretty successful. Unfortunately, he got himself into a little bit of trouble. And what happened was, they were going to court-martial him. There was a friendly fire incident involving him. General Patton stepped in and said, no, we're not doing that. Instead, we're going to promote this guy. We're going to give him a medal because he showed extraordinary initiative when it came to dealing with the enemy. Justin Coletti just went by. Dick Smith is following up. On September 19th, near Aracourt, Major Carpenter attacked a column of Panther tanks advancing on the 4th Armored Division. He made 3 diving passes on the column, firing 2 bazooka rounds each pass. On his 3rd run, Major Carpenter hit and knocked out one of the Panthers, hitting it from a total of 6 tanks destroyed, and also participated in several ground combat actions. He would land his airplane, grab the rifle he had on board, and would join the battle. He gained another nickname because he never got so much as a scratch from enemy fire. He was also called the Lucky Major. In recognition of his bravery and call to duty, Carpenter was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel and awarded the Bronze Star, the Air Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, and the Silver Star with Oak Leaf Cluster. His daughter just wrote a book, along with aviation writer Jim Bouchard, about her dad. Now here's the great part, as Dick Smith goes by there. Rosie the Rocketeer. You're probably wondering, well, whatever happened to Major Carpenter's airplane? I have a copy sitting at home. I've just been so busy I haven't had the chance to read it, but I'm sure it's an interesting read. From the parts of it that I've gotten into, I believe that Major Carpenter in civilian life was a history teacher. Sounds kind of like Tom Hanks' role in Saving Private Ryan. There we go. Justin Coletti getting it done with that J3 Cub. By the way, this airplane was also used extensively as a pilot training aircraft. It is said that the J3 Cub has trained more pilots than any other airplane in the world. Was used extensively at flight schools all across the country during World War II. Piper cranked out a bunch of these aircraft, which is why there are still so many of them around. They're part of the movement called war bugs. You've heard of war birds? Well, there's a war bugs, and the advantage of having a war bug versus a war bird is pretty simple. First off, cost. All right, these are the PTs that you're going out in the lead. We have Mark Denest in a PT 26, followed by Tim Trimble with his PT 26. The equipment and the men who really knew what was going on so that they could punch them out quickly. They killed it with manpower back then to get these airplanes out in a hurry. Now here's the beauty about Mark. He is an expert PT-19 and PT-26 restoration expert. If you ever get the opportunity to fly in one of these airplanes, you really should. Now coming in, here's Tim Trimble with his 1943 PT-26. It was restored in 2016 by Joe and Mark Denest in Lancaster County. The aircraft is a World War II training aircraft utilized by the United States Army Air Force and the British Commonwealth nations. This aircraft was flown by British and Canadian pilots in Canada. So this is actually a training veteran. During the restoration, Tim met an Englishman who trained in America and instructed U.S. pilots under the Hap-Arnold plan. He was Royal Air Force Flight Lieutenant Richard Boyd, who also won the Distinguished Flying Cross. Richard returned to England to fly for RAF Bomber Command. Tim has dedicated this airplane to World War II Royal Air Force Flight Lieutenant Richard Boyd and his gallant crew. Richard might be here today. I don't know. I'm hoping he is. Richard flew 33 missions in the Lancaster bomber and currently lives in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The Stearman, on the other hand, airplane commonly known as the Yellow Peril, this airplane was a little, well, you had to pay attention to it. If you weren't listening to what the airplane was telling you, this airplane would definitely turn and bite you. The airplane is said, it is said that you are flying the airplane right up until you put it in the chocks and tie it down for the night. And here's Mark Denest. Now the PT-19 was an open cockpit. This is an enclosed cockpit because of the In this case, either Major General Strait started the attack and somebody else finished it, or it was the other way around. Somebody else started it and Major General Strait finished it. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, in the diamond formation. Here come the Jersey Jerks. Kevin Russo, Kevin Nagel, John Mazur, Buzz Cortese. Retractable landing gear, increased horsepower, 600 horsepower, much more sophisticated controls, as well as some models prepare a 30 caliber machine gun camera, bomb rack. Oops. The fingertip formation. Here come the Jersey Jerks. Felt like the ailerons were not connected, but yet they were very responsive. The elevator, yeah, it's connected, but it gives you the right amount of feedback so that you know that you're pulling on the stick, because if you pull too hard, you could break not only yourself, but the airplane. From the left, here comes the Jersey Jerks in the trail formation. There's the sound of that 1340. You just hear that. Ladies and gentlemen, get your cameras and recording devices ready. Here come the Jersey Jerks and the echelon formation. What they're doing now is a break to a landing. And they did it yesterday too. They're going to make passes. 3 of these aircraft will break to the left, set up for landing. Kevin Russo is going to go off into the distance, and what he's going to do is he's going to set up for an aerobatic performance. Okay, watch as they break to the left. Kevin Russo, he will go to the right. And there's his break. Now what they're going to do is they're going to set up for their landing. Kevin Russo is going to go off into the... This is Buzz Cortese coming in.
$5 bill. I was gonna use that to buy the icy cold water. When it comes back.
On your way.
You're good. You bought an ice cream for 50. Now you're gonna buy more.
Here comes Gavin Nagel in for his landing.
Ice cold. Icy cold. Yeah, that's just where I am. We'll just talk. Figure out a way.
And here's John Mazur. Tail end, Charlie. You'll notice in front of the windshield on that, there's a pair of 30 caliber machine guns. Once again, you will notice that they are doing S-turns as they taxi back because of the tail dragger design, also known as conventional gear. You have no visibility over the nose of this airplane. So you do these little S-turns to keep from doing something expensive and also to stay on the runway and or taxiway as you are coming back. And here's Buzz Cortese. All right, ladies and gentlemen, high and from behind. Pay attention. I hear him, I see him, here we go. High and behind here is Kevin Russo with SNJ 86 Harvard Aerobatics. Smoke is on, watch for the pull. It's gonna happen right about there. That's about 4 G's, 4 times the force of gravity, pushing you into the seat of the airplane, over the top, weightless. This is called the quarter clover. He's got a fair amount of speed building up, so what's he gonna do? He's gonna pull back on the stick again. Coming up over the top, this is called the inside, also known as the Barnstormer loop. But he's not done on this pass. He's got something else up his sleeve. Watch for it. There he goes. The aileron roll. He takes the stick and he bangs it into his left knee after he does a small pitch-up maneuver. As I said, this airplane, this lady can dance. Very responsive on the controls. The next step after this airplane was either fighter school or bomber school. Well, multi-engine school. You could be flying a bomber, you could be flying a transport aircraft. Coming in from the right, Kevin Russo. Keep an eye on what he's going to do here. Here comes the pull. Now as he's going up, heading toward the cloud, please don't hit it, Kevin. We don't want it to rain. As he gets to the top of the loop, he is literally weightless. The only thing holding him in the airplane, the seat belts and the shoulder harness. Back onto the vertical again. One just isn't enough. Now you're probably thinking, well, Fast Eddie, this is aerobatics. Why do they do that with these airplanes? Well, because aerobatics was taught because this also was useful in combat when you're out there dogfighting. It allows you to evade and escape the enemy, or even better yet, these maneuvers will get you onto the enemy's tail, allowing you to shoot him down. Coming in from the left, he's got the throttle all the way up on this airplane. Not once will he pull it back. Let's count along. There's 2, 3, Oh, there's 3. I can't count today. 4 points of the 4-point hesitation roll. He stops the airplane precisely every 90 degrees. We measured it on Friday. He was right on the money. Now, Kevin was born in Montreal, Canada, makes his home up in North Branch, New Jersey with his daughter Spencer, who also happens to be his crew chief. Kevin was 15 years old when he first started to fly, soloed on his 16th birthday, and received his pilot's license at 17. He went on to get his commercial, instrument, multi-engine instructor ratings by the age of 19. Up onto the vertical. This is a half Cuban 8 here. As he comes down, building up some airspeed, keep your eyes on the airplane. Here we go. There's the pitch up. There's 1. Oh, he's going to loop it first. He loves to loop this airplane, and it does it so easily. Comes out of it, watch for it. He's going to do another loop here. Or is he going to do a half Cuban 8? Let's keep an eye on it. Yep, that's a half Cuban 8 there. The Cuban 8 was a maneuver invented back in 1933 by Len Povey, who was in an aerobatic competition and botched a maneuver. The end result was he rolled to get out of it, and everybody on the ground thought, this is really neat. And they asked him about it. At the time, Len Povey was an instructor for the Cuban Air Force, and he explained, well, it's the Cuban 8. Len knew who buttered his bread, for sure. Kevin Russo coming in. Watch for the pitch up. There it is. He's going to go with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8-point hesitation roll, stopping precisely every 45 degrees. Now, you may have noticed when the Jersey Jerks took off, they all have this great big greenhouse canopy on board the airplane. And because of that greenhouse, it gets a touch warm in the airplane. On Friday, he clocked in with an inside temperature of the airplane of 118 degrees. I imagine it's even higher today. Here we go. Watch for it. Nice, slow, easy, gentle maneuver. This is called the barrel roll. The airplane is flying around the imaginary inside of a barrel, laying on its side. Now up next. This maneuver, you're going to have to do it like I do it. You're going to have to take your shoes and socks off to be able to count along with it. Coming up, as Kevin Russo sets up for it, watch for the pitch up. Coming in from the left. Wait for it. There's the pull. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That is the 16-point hesitation roll. Now there is a 32-point hesitation. Just starts getting silly. Now, one maneuver that you will not see Kevin do with his airplane, because it is a very violent and very stressful maneuver on a T6, and it was never designed to do it anyway. You will not see him do a snap roll as Kevin goes by. There he goes, pulls up again. He's going to go over the top, right through the sun. Thank you, Kevin. There we go. He did a loop. Now he's going to do an Immelman. Oh, he's going to do 2 loops. Okay. He told me earlier he was going to play Stump the Announcer. Well, he has. All right, no big deal. Richards and his TP40M American Dream. There he goes, wheel landing. There's the tail wheel coming down. Piece of cake. He makes it look so easy.
At the beginning of World War II,
Sorry.
You look for like a big sign.
Here goes the P40.
Let's do it.
Whoa, look at that. Wow. Holy cow.
This is Staff Sergeant Alvin Josephi Jr., a United States Marine Corps combat correspondent speaking from Iwo Jima. An attack is underway, and so far this morning, in a couple of hours, they have gone approximately 500 yards through the most difficult kind of terrain. Bullets are whistling past us. We are in the open. Japanese mortars and also small. This is very near the front, and there is quite a bit of fire going on around here. The roar you hear in the background are planes, are coming from our own planes that are assisting the infantry just up ahead of us. This is Sergeant Dick Lawson, United States Marine Corps combat radio correspondent with the veteran 4th Division. Sergeant Bobby Williams, our control recording engineer, and I are speaking to you now from the Motoyama Airport number 1 on the island of Iwo Jima, the Sulphur Islands, after the 4th and 5th Divisions of the United States Marines landed to arrest this island from the Japanese and give Uncle Sam another base only 660 miles from the Japanese mainland itself. The fighting is going on now on a ridge just in front of us. You can probably hear the noise of the shelling in the planes overhead as they drop their bombs, and every once in a while you hear them strafe and send rockets down. As we look over on this ridge, the Marines have paths cut up the side of it to the top where the Japs are entrenched. You can probably hear the sound of that rocket barrage went off just then over on the ridge. And there's a scene of violent activity there as these Marines are going up and down that ridge, carrying supplies up to the men in the front lines and bringing casualties back out. And there are casualties too, there are plenty of them. That's one of the Marine fighter planes just passed overhead. He's on his way back to his base to get a new supply of rockets. I notice he has rocket brackets on, but they are empty. A terrific bombardment just went on over that ridge. You can probably hear those planes strafing over there now. Quite a few planes are circling over that ridge. There's a new flight of about 15 or 20 of them coming in now from the south.
There's been a lot of talk about the Japs going underground. Just exactly what does this mean? Well, Bob, it's almost unbelievable. Everything on Iwo Jima is underground or buried in the side of the volcano. Nothing I have seen so far during the time I've spent on this island has been above the ground. The Marines have had to dig the Japs out of every sunken pillbox, blockhouse, and cave that escaped Eggawa Pit. And there were lots of them. And there'll be lots more before this is over, no matter how many tons of shells we pour in here.
From Suribachi's 500-foot elevation, enemy mortars hold the entire island in range. Slowly, the Marines push forward up Mount Suribachi.
There we go. Wow. Wow, we are really turning up
By battle's end, almost 7,000 Marines and 21,000 Japanese defenders had been killed. The Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet, Admiral Chester Nimitz, was watching the battle unfold from his flagship. Of the Marines who fought on Iwo Jima, he said, "Uncommon valor was a common virtue." In the midst of the battle, a picture of 6 United States Marines. They were a cross-section of 1945 America. They were a mill hand from New Hampshire, a Kentucky tobacco farmer, a Pima Indian from Arizona, a Pennsylvania miner's son, a boy from the Midwest city of Detroit, and a Texas high school football star. The picture has since become synonymous with the American fighting spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, have your cameras ready. Courtesy of the Pacific Area Marine Cadre here at World War II weekend, here is our salute to all the veterans of World War II.
In South Carolina, where he and his crew will gladly teach you all aspects of warbird flying. Warbird Adventures also offers primary and aerobatic training in smaller tail draggers. You can, in fact, get your private pilot certificate in a tail wheel Citabria or take an aerobatic course in their Super Decathlon with Tom's operation in South Carolina. They will actually teach you aerobatics as part of their private pilot course right from the start. Tom arrived at 17 years of age in the United States. He was born and raised in Sweden. He decided at the young age of 7 that he wanted to fly warbirds and race at the Reno Air Races. The only way to accomplish this was to move to America. He came to the U.S. by himself for 2,500 miles, and his grandfather had given him in order to pursue his little piece of American dream. Tom is well known for his exploits in air racing around the world, a World Cup winner in the International Formula 1. He is among others, Tom has been sponsored by Flight Watches. It is currently sponsored by the legendary manufacturer, USA, and now it is C-12 to deliver 8,000 on Facebook. Tom relocated his entire operation a couple of years ago to the new American Sky Ranch Airport in South Carolina, a beautiful grass strip between Columbia, Greenville, and with his aviation photographer and aerobatic training camp weekend. Check www. tentatively scheduled for this October. If you'd like to fly any of Tom's beautiful aircraft yourself, go talk to his trusty team after the show and schedule to fly at the American Dream Sky Ranch in South Carolina. And don't forget, once again, to check out our airshow venue with his TP-40N. It's got a TP on it instead of a P because this is a full dual-control training aircraft. From the left, really well control rate for an aircraft that is 80 years old. Loves to do low pass flybys. And I asked him a couple days ago, I said, Tom, why do you fly so low? And he said that he was afraid of heights. Coming in from the left. He's going to do another photo pass. Here comes Tom Richard, TP-40N Warhawk. Another photo pass. I guarantee you it's going to be a low one, and he's going to probably come through here at about 300 knots. It's about 340 miles an hour.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Tom was in.
Whoa! Wow! That's one of the sickest photo passes I've gotten.
Allison engine singing as it goes by. Program, whatever you got. Let's let him know how much you appreciate him coming out here today with the TP-40N. All the way from South Carolina, Tom Richard and the Warhawk. Ha ha! Look at this! Woohoo!
Do they fly those here in South Carolina?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. No, I think they probably fly like local airplanes.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, you have a snack.
Look at that. Look at his face. You see his face? It's a real bummer right there.
Oh, there he is. Say hi.
It's also open.
Yeah, he did all that open.
Oh, he has
Oh, okay.
Say hi, Luna, over here. Look at the airplane. Hi, airplane. Hi, airplane. Hi, airplane. American Dream. Look at that thing.
BU-133 was a development of the Bucher BU-131 Youngman two-seat basic trainer. First flown in 1935 by Louise Hoffmann, the first female works pilot in Germany. It was slightly smaller than the BU-131 Youngman. The aircraft showed, quote, astonishing agility, unquote, at its first public appearance, the 1936 International Aerobatic Championship at Rangsdorf. The BU-133 racked up numerous victories in international aerobatic competition, and by 1938 was the Luftwaffe standard advanced trainer. At the Brussels meet that year, a three-man Luftwaffe team made a strong impression on Reichsmarschall Hermann Goering, who ordered a 9-man team be formed. It dazzled the crowds at the International Flying Meet in Brussels the next year. The Youngmeister design remained competitive in international aerobatic competition into the 1960s. Now Jerry Wells has finished assembling his Frank Price American Youngmeister and has added some color to the Bucher so that it resembles the fictional Ernst Kessler's airplane as Frank Price flew it in the movie The Great Waldo Pepper. The Kessler character was based on Ernst Cadet, whose autobiography Ace of the Iron Cross is a wonderful read. Now, one of the reasons this particular airplane has the spectacular performance that it has here today is because of the engine. He's running on a modern Lycoming engine as opposed to the original Hirth HM 504 4-cylinder inverted air-cooled piston engine of 100 horsepower. The reason that he's flying it on the Lycoming is because the Hirth 504 engine is pretty much extinct along with all of its parts because we blew the factory to smithereens where the airplane was made. There's Jerry rolling the airplane around. As you can see, with the combination of small aircraft, high maneuverability, and lots of horsepower, he is able to keep the airplane up close and personal so that all of you can get a good look at this airplane. It's got a maximum speed of 114 miles an hour, a cruise speed of 110, and it will land at 51 miles an hour. Being as how it's highly maneuverable, it is favored, or it was favored, in aerobatic competitions. There are many airplanes out there that can outdo it, but don't forget, this airplane was designed and built back in the 1930s. There have been tremendous advances in airplane construction and aerodynamics since that time. Pulls up onto the vertical there. He's got about 300 horsepower in the airplane as he snap rolls it around. And now he's going to bring the airplane back to the air show center. And here's another B-25 for those of you who like the heavy metal. Meanwhile, Jerry Wells is up there flying around, demonstrating the agility and maneuverability of the Bucher Youngmeister. Oh, he was doing a torque roll there for a moment. I lost him in the clouds there for a second. Going up on a 45-degree climb right through the sun practically. There you go, double inside snap roll. Don't forget, remember this is the training airplane that the Luftwaffe would have used. before and during World War II. So we've gotten to see training aircraft from 3 different countries today as Jerry Well cranks it up. Coming over the top, hanging by the belts right now, all the blood's going to his head. He does a half Cuban 8 there. Let's see if he's going to do the other half. He said he was going to play Stump the Announcer today. There's the pull. Now what we're looking for is 5/8 of the loop, which will be right about there. And there's the roll-off. That is the full Cuban 8 as designed and executed by Len Povey back in 1933. Hanging by the propeller. By the way, the airplane only weighs about 800 pounds. And here comes Beach City Baby. Looks like Jerry Wells is going to take his Bucher and he's going to set up a photo pass.
Yes.
Here he comes, ladies and gentlemen. Jerry Wells, the photo pass. You got to admit, this airplane's got really nice lines to it. Do that? Well, because the smoke oil is free. I would too. However, the brake pads that he used to hold the airplane back while he's revving it up, that's not free. You just can't go down to a Napa store and say, I need brakes for my Bucher. Ladies and gentlemen, lining up to the left. 5s.
Look at that.
And we're on the roll. Ladies and gentlemen, here comes Panchito.
You want to sign it?
Here comes takeoff time. And here comes the C-53. This is Beach City Baby. December 7th, 1941, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. So they came up with this idea of launching 16 B-25s from the deck of an aircraft carrier. Colonel Jimmy Doolittle was put in charge of this program. From the left, here comes Panchito. Watch for the Bombay doors. Paul Newer and Sid Vicious Jones at the controls of Panchito today. So they practiced. They went out west and they practiced. They learned how to get off an aircraft carrier. 80 volunteers stepped forward for the Doolittle raid. The idea was to shake Japan up. because Japan was saying, "You'll never bomb us." Well, guess what? They went out there and they pulled it off. But there was a hitch. From the left, takeoff time. Tom Duffy, Ryan Parente. Coming around from the left, this is a C-53. Jason Capper and Ian Hengst at the controls. This is a civilian DC-3 that was drafted. But the damage was done. The Japanese knew they were there. Here comes Panchito. Doolittle and company had to take off early, which put the crews in danger of not making the fields in China that they were supposed to land at. And unfortunately, they did have casualties. Not from the bombing raid, mind you, but from running out of fuel, the darkness, and not being able to find where they were supposed to go. The mission was hailed as a success. American morale had been lifted because there was nothing but bad news from December 7th to April 1942. Takeoff time. Now here's Beach City, baby. How do you tell a C-47 from a C-53 at a quick glance? Well, it's easy. You look at the door on the back of the fuselage on the left side. If it's a C-53, it's a tiny, itty-bitty little door. If it's a C-47, it's got the big cargo door. Not even really worth reporting about, but here's the beauty of a photo pass of Panchito. We successfully rattled Japan's cage because what did they do? They held back troops that our boys would have had to have faced in the island hopping campaign. A psychological victory, but a big one for America. Spirits were raised. Here's takeoff time. The C-53, an offshoot of the Douglas DC-3. Did you know there were Russian and Japanese versions of this aircraft built? The Russian was the Lusanov Li-2. The Japanese version was the Showa Nakajima L-2D. There were only a dozen of them built, and we erased all of them from the planet. In the world, even though Japan was shortly to go on a rampage over in Asia. Here comes Panchito, Paul Newer and Sid Vicious Jones at the controls. Notice how he's holding the nose off, using a little bit of aerodynamic braking to save the brake pads.
How you doing, folks? Hope you're having a good day here at the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum. Before you have a small battle going on. It's 1944. It's France. It's the countryside. D-Day has already happened. An American reconnaissance patrol has come up and met with the Germans. The Americans and the British are trying to consolidate the beachhead, and the Germans are doing everything that they can to push them back into the sea. You see some various vehicles you have before. On the American side, that's an M20 armored car moving. You can see the 6 wheels. You can see an American half-track with the troops behind it moving forward. You see a British armored car, and closest to the crowd, you see another M20. Now, the M20s had 50 caliber machine guns, as did the half-tracks. They weren't really meant for battle. They were meant to transport the infantry. As you see there, they were good against small arms fire and shrapnel. That's why they were made. The American tank in the back is a M4 A3. It has a 76.2 millimeter gun, which is a very effective gun. It could actually take out Tigers and Panthers with any side, rear shot. Not the front, but anything else. Very effective gun. On the German side, you have the 2 tanks with their Panzer Kampfwagen Mark IIIs. The older tanks from the German Army were used a lot on the Western Front. With that, where some of the newer ones, a lot of them went to the Eastern Front to fight the T-72s. I'm sorry, T-34s. The other German vehicle we have is a short, gun, and it's on a assault gun chassis. It's very effective, but it's for infantry support. The Germans are in a little trouble here. You see them backing up. They're giving way to the superior American firepower. The thing with the 2 German tanks, one of them has an L50. That's a high velocity gun. That's a longer one. Okay. And the other one is a short 50. The high velocity 50 was a very, very effective gun in its day. A little dated by this time. You can see the American infantry coming up. It looks like the Americans have won. The Americans and the Allies on their push to Paris and beyond. Who knows? Maybe the war will be over by Christmas. What do you think? You can also see the Germans desperately trying to man an anti-tank gun. That's a 37 millimeter. The Germans used to call it the door knocker because the later tanks, it was just that ineffective. Well, folks, there you go. The Americans have won. The Germans have either surrendered or given up for folk or fatherland. Let's give these guys a big hand, all right? They buy their
And I'll tell you what, when that aircraft is in flight, he is one of the busiest people on board that aircraft. And I'm sure that right now, he's a busy booger too. Roll, ladies and gentlemen, here comes Fifi. Boeing B-29 Super Fortress, first flown in 1942, began active service in 1944. It was designed as a replacement. The early 3350s were prone to overheating, and they weren't all that reliable. Well, the chief pilot made that decision because they were having obvious and extended engine difficulties. So somebody came up with the brilliant idea of taking a late model Lockheed Constellation engine, which is also a 3350. But there was a problem. If they were going to put the whole Connie engine on the B-29, they'd have to re-engineer all the motor mounts. And that was promising to be a little painful. So they looked at the engines and they realized that the power section of the Connie engine would bolt up to the accessory drive section of the original engines on the B-29. So that's what they did. They married them. And they came up with the 3350-B29 engine. More power, better fuel efficiency, and it runs a lot cooler. From the left, here comes Fifi, the B-29 Super Fortress. I think, well, you know, they were a single airplane, they were alone. Nope. The Enola Gay had company, the great artiste, for an observation plane. Camera plane was necessary evil. Weather aircraft, full house, Japet to third, and straight flush. From the right, Fifi. The backup airplane was called Big Stink. Now, we did hit Hiroshima. The atomic bomb was such a secret weapon that Vice President Harry Truman didn't know about it until the passing of Roosevelt, when he was informed of the Manhattan Project. There were 3 bombs that were built. The Trinity bomb, which was the first one, then Little Boy and Fat Man. What Japan didn't know that after August the 9th was that we had no more atomic bombs. We had no more material to build them. Would have taken 6 months to do it. From the left, Fifi. Unconditionally surrendered, and we avoided further carnage. Coming around for a photo pass, ladies and gentlemen, the Boeing B-29 Super Fortress, Fifi. One interesting thing about Fifi is this airplane was pressurized. You could be up at 30,000 feet, like you would be in an airliner, and you'd be in shirt sleeve comfort. Plus, the remote control turrets could be controlled by one gunner, from one gun to all of the turrets on the airplane. Here's Fifi. Pilots on Fifi today are Jeremy Lashbrook, Joe St. Clair, and flight engineer John Shower, who undoubtedly is the busiest man on board that airplane right now. He has a lot of things to keep track of. Once again, if you want to find out how busy he is, look it up on YouTube. B-29 flight engineer, take you right to it. Here comes Fifi. you can let go that cup of coffee to help get this airplane, and you'll become part of the P-61 support crew. This is important. I know I've made a lot of donations over the years, and it's really a good feeling to be a part of the effort, even a small part of the effort that is going in to getting this P-61 Black Widow back where she belongs, in the skies over Reading. From the left, here comes Fifi. Gear, flaps down, here comes the landing.
Yeah,
That's what we were last year.
which one? This white one or that red one? Oh, the red one there.
Three King Cobra. One thing for sure, the dark green paint job sure blends in with all the trees back there. And here's Tom Richard with the P-51.
This is a P-63.
In 1941, after the P-39 Air Cobra had been in production for 1 year, Bell engineers began designing a new fighter after limitations became a role. Here's Panchito. What made the P-63 and the P-39 so successful in Russia? Tom Richard, the P-51. This particular P-63 has served many different roles, from test aircraft to air show performer. It was built in the winter of 1944, bearing the Bell construction number 33-11 for Model 33 Aircraft 11. From the right, here comes Mark Todd, the P-63 King Cobra. This aircraft rolled out of the Bell plant in Niagara Falls on February 24th of 1944, where it was formally accepted by the United States Army Air Force as a P-63A-6 and given serial number 42-68941. Ladies and gentlemen, from the left, Mark Todd at the controls of the Bell P-63 King Cobra. Did a half Cuban 8 turn around? Let's see if he's going to do the other half. No, it doesn't look like it. Well, I have no information here on the number of airplanes built, but I know that surviving examples, probably less than a half a dozen flying in the world today. My buddy Ferenc Polka up here just told me they built 3,300 of these aircraft. Thank you, Ferenc. This airplane has several unique features. For one thing, the engine is not mounted in the nose. That's where that cannon is. The engine sits behind the pilot. It's what they called a mid-engined airplane. Now, once upon a time, there were plans for a mid-engine Mustang, but that never happened. The reason they put the engine behind the pilot is simple. They needed the room up front for the cannon and the .250 caliber machine guns. The end result was there was a drive shaft going through the cockpit, plus you also had a reduction gear drive up front turning the propeller, which was good because there was a hole to put the 37mm cannon. The cockpit on the airplane also featured doors very similar to car doors, in right up to the point where you could roll the windows down, as you saw when Mark Todd taxied by. Mark Todd going off into the distance, setting up for what I believe will be his photo pass. Now, Bell later went on to build other fixed-wing aircraft, most notably Glamorous Glennis, the Bell X-1, which was the first airplane to break the speed of sound. And then, of course, Bell went on to greater success with helicopters. Here comes the photo pass. North American Aviation was intrigued by this offer, but they said, we don't want to build you P-40 Warhawks, we can build you something better. The British were intrigued and said, okay, go ahead. From plans to prototype in 117 days, the only thing the newly built Mustang needed was an engine. Originally, they were going to put an Allison engine in it, which they did. The British loved the airframe, and they were not thrilled about the engine. The problem was high altitude performance. The Allison in the Mustang did not have it. However, there was a solution. That solution was very elegant. A British engineer said, you know, I wonder what would happen if we put the Merlin engine on the Mustang airframe. And a legend was born. But there was one little hitch. That little hitch was that Rolls-Royce was already at maximum production and couldn't build any more. They were building engines for Spitfires, Hurricanes, Typhoons, Lancasters, Mosquitoes, whatever else the British needed. So what happened is Ford was approached, and Ford was thinking, yeah, we can build this engine, not a problem. And then Henry Ford found out it was going in an airplane, and he immediately refused, turned down the offer. At this point in time, Packard Motor Car Company stepped up and said, yeah, we can build that engine. They were already building the V12s for the PT boats, so this was not a stretch for them at all. Packard went from plans to production in 18 months, including a brand new building to build the Merlin engine. And they built over 80,000 of them during the war. Not to mention all the bits and pieces that go into them. And just for the record, the PT boat Packard engine is not the same as the Merlin. Tom Richard there at the control of the P-51. Now you're probably wondering, what made the P-51 such a good airplane? It was the wing. Once again, that laminar flow wing allows you to get more speed with less drag on the same horsepower. Plus, with the addition of the drop tanks on the P-51, suddenly our bombers had escorts all the way to Berlin and back again. They weren't able to do that before. The P-47 couldn't do it. It had an engine a third larger than the Merlin engine. The airplane was a great airplane, just wasn't as aerodynamically clean. It didn't have the range. Then the Mustang came along. bombers due to enemy fighters. Here's the photo pass. And here goes takeoff time. Wave at takeoff time there, everybody.
That was pretty sweet.
The Mustang was designed to be flown by a pilot with only 200 hours of flight time under their belt. If you go to England, what is their favorite World War II fighter airplane? The Spitfire. One of the concerns that Rolls-Royce had was that the Packard-built motors were not going to be as good as Rolls-Royce originals. So they got cheeky. Somehow they acquired a Packard-built engine, and they took it apart, and they were impressed. They were impressed with the quality and the craftsmanship and the precision of the Merlin, of the Packard-built Merlin engine. And here goes the hero of Midway, the Douglas Dauntless. Here's Tom Richards from the right, low photo pass. I never get. They're going to join up for the missing man formation. And here's Panchito recovered. P-51, Tom Richard at the controls of the 51, Mark Todd at the 63. Here's your photo pass. And they deliberately want to stay up as much as they can because these airplanes are just so much fun to fly. And I'm pretty sure that's why they're going to come by here and do a third pass. I think this is another one of those scenarios where they're going to do as many passes as they can until the air boss gets sick of it. And there's the midfield break. Todd in the P-63. Why? Because it was so much fun the first time. Here comes Tom Richard, the P-51, followed by Mark Todd, the P-63. Get those cameras rolling. Great job up there today. We really appreciate you keeping everybody up to date on the action here this afternoon at World War II weekend. How about a nice round of applause?
Well, that's all she wrote for this year's World War II weekend, everybody.
That's good. In the winter, you can put double socks.
Yeah, double socks.